Okay, all right, we're done. Okay, go ahead and start with
Sure.
text 28.
Text 28. Injan evam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmasha sukhena brahma samparsham atyuntam sukham ashnute. Synonyms. Yunjan, engaging in yoga practice. Evam, thus. Sada, always. Atmanam, the self. Yogi, one who is in touch with the Supreme Self. Gata, freed from. Kalmasha, all material contamination. Sukhena, in transcendental happiness. Brahma Samparsham, being in constant touch with the Supreme. Atyantam, the highest. Sukham, happiness. Ashnute, attains. Translation. Thus, the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness and transcendental loving service to the Lord. Purport. Self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. The individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. This transcendental contact with the Supreme is called Brahma Samparsha.
Text 29. Sarvabhuta stamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. Sarvabhuta stam, situated in all beings, atmanam, the supersoul, sarva, all, bhutani, entities, cha, also, atmani, in the self, ikshate, does see, yoga yukta atma, one who is dovetailed in Krishna consciousness, sarvatra, everywhere, samadarshana, seeing equally. Translation: a true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. Report. A Krishna conscious yogi is the perfect seer because he sees Krishna, the Supreme, situated in everyone's heart as Supersoul, Paramatma. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hridayeshwarjuna Tistati. The Lord in his Paramatma feature is situated within the heart of the dog and that of a Brahmana. The perfect yogi knows that the Lord is eternally transcendental and is not materially affected by his presence in either a dog or a Brahmana. That is the supreme neutrality of the Lord. The individual soul is also situated in the individual heart, but he is not present in all hearts. That is the distinction between the individual soul and the supersoul. One who is not factually in the practice of yoga cannot see so clearly. As a Krishna conscious person can see Krishna in the heart of both the believer and the non-believer. In the Smriti, this is confirmed as follows: Atatat vach shamartrich vach chatmai paramo hari. The Lord, as being the source of all beings, is like the mother and the maintainer. As the mother is neutral to all different kinds of children, the Supreme Father or Mother is also. Consequently, the super soul is always in every living being. Take turns here.
Outwardly, also, every living being is situated in the energy of the Lord. As will be explained in the 7th chapter, the Lord has primarily two energies, the spiritual or superior and the material or inferior. The living entity, although part of the superior energy, is conditioned by the inferior energy. The living entity is always in the Lord's energy. Every living entity is situated in him one way or another.
The yogi sees equally because he sees that all living entities, although in different situations according to the results of fruitive work, in all circumstances remain the servants of God. While in the material energy, the living entity serves the material senses, while in the spiritual energy, he serves the Supreme Lord directly. In either case, the living entity is the servant of God. This vision of equality is perfect in a person in Krishna consciousness. Go ahead.
Text 30. Yomam pasyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pasyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. Synonyms. Ya, whoever, mam, me, pasyati, sees, sarvatra, everywhere, sarvam, everything, cha, and, Mai, in me. Pasyati, sees. Tasya, for him. Aham, I. Na, not. Pranasyami, am lost. Sa, he. Cha, also. Me, to me. Na, nor. Pranasyati, is lost. Translation. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Purport. A person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere, and he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, but in each and every instance, he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the development of love of Krishna, a position transcendental even to material liberation. At this stage of Krishna consciousness, beyond self-realization, the devotee becomes one with Krishna in the sense that Krishna becomes everything for the devotee, and the devotee becomes full in loving Krishna. An intimate relationship between the Lord and the devotee then exists. In that stage, the living entity can never be annihilated, nor is the personality of Godhead ever out of the sight of the devotee. To merge in Krishna is spiritual annihilation. A devotee takes no such risk. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita 538.
I'll read this verse here. Pramanjana charita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridiyesha vilokyanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunasarupam govinda mari prusham taham bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee, whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen as the eternal form of Shyamsundar, situated within the heart of the devotee.
Keep going.
I'll just keep reading this. At this stage, the Lord Krishna never disappears from the sight of the devotee, nor does the devotee ever lose sight of the Lord. In the case of a yogi who sees the Lord as Paramatma within the heart, the same applies. Such a yogi turns into a pure devotee and cannot bear to live for a moment without seeing the Lord within himself. That's the state of the devotees in the Goloka Vrindavan. I was reading about that in the which book is that? Bhagavad-gītā. This devotee goes all the way to the spiritual world, and he sees the devotees in Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world. And devotees there were so attached to Krishna that if he disappeared behind a tree, they would freak out. They couldn't even bear one moment of of separation from him. Go ahead and read the next verse.
Text 31. Sarvabhuta stitam yomam bhajati ekatvam astita sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate. Synonyms. Sarvabhuta stitam, situated in everyone's heart. Ya, he who, mam, me. Bhajati, serves in devotional service. Ekatvam, in oneness. Astita, situated. Sarvata, in all respects. Vartamana, being situated. Api, in spite of. Sa, he, yogi, the transcendentalist. Mai, in me. Vartate, remains. Translation. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Purport. A yogi who is practicing meditation on the Supersoul sees within himself the plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu, with 4 hands holding conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus flower. The yogi should know that Vishnu is not different from Krishna. Krishna in this form of Supersoul is situated in everyone's heart. Furthermore, there is no difference between the innumerable Supersouls present in the innumerable hearts of living entities. Nor is there a difference between Krishna conscious person always engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the Supersoul. The yogi in Krishna consciousness, even though he may be engaged in various activities while in material existence, remains always situated in Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 1-187, Srila Rupa Goswami. Nikhilas api asvat hasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. A devotee of the Lord, always acting in Krishna consciousness, is automatically liberated. In the Narada Pancharatra, this is confirmed in this way.
Yeah, when I was a new devotee, I always thought that it would be cool to have a tattoo right where your heart is of the Vishnu form of the Lord in the heart with a conch shell disc lotus. But I'm afraid of needles, and plus I'm a wuss, so I would never undergo. I don't like tattoos. I really don't, even if they're devotee tattoos. But it would be kind of cool.
There's a big debate on whether or not that should even be permitted, because, you know, people would have that and then you'd be going into something like a bathroom or another kind of impure place, taking a form of Krishna in there.
Yeah.
There was an article in Back to Godhead years ago about, you know, kind of debating whether or not devotional tattoos were appropriate.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't think they should be that fanatical about it. I mean, a tattoo is a tattoo, but you know, I have a mask that has Nrsingadev, my deity, Nrsingadev, the, you know, Ugur Nrsinga. I have a custom made mask with that. It's kind of a fierce looking mask to scare away all the viruses. And somebody was saying, "Oh, you're breathing on Lord Nrsingadev." And that's ridiculous. You know, Lord Nrsingadev is not the mask, you know. I mean, there are certain things that are just like beyond fanaticism as far as I'm concerned. Plus, it's my deity. I can, you know, it's not my deity, but you know, it's like, I don't know. I just don't, I have enough problems. You know, some people say, oh, well, you got to wear the shutter on your left shoulder, not on your right shoulder. I don't care. You know, I've gotten more problems to deal with than which shoulder to put my shutter on, you know. That's just a little bit too pedantic for my taste. Anyway, Dik Kaladi Ana Vachine Krishne Chat Cheto Vidhayacha Tanmayo Bhavatik Shipram Jivo Brahmani Yojayat. By concentrating one's attention on a transcendental form of Krishna, who is all pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna and then attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. This very understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart makes the yogi faultless. The Vedas, Gopala-tampani Upanishad 121, confirm this inconceivable potency of the Lord as follows. Ekopi san bahuda yo vibhati. Although the Lord is one, he is present in innumerable hearts as many. Similarly, in the Smriti Shastra, it is said, you can read this.
Eka evo paro Vishnu sarva vyapi na samshaya aishvaryad rupam ekam cha suryavat hudheyate. Vishnu is one, and yet he is certainly all-pervading. By his inconceivable potency, in spite of his one form, he is present everywhere as the sun appears in many places at once.
I mean, that's one of the inconceivable things about Krishna consciousness, isn't it? I mean, that Krishna can be in the heart of every single one of the trillions and quadrillions and, you know, Googleplex living entities in all of the universes at once, and know what everyone is thinking and know their past, present, and future simultaneously. That is, and you know that that's true. What any devotee who has ever come in contact with a scripture and has any idea of what Krishna is, has learned from their spiritual master, that is an incontrovertible fact, you know, that Krishna's in everyone's heart, and he accompanies every single living entity on the path. And that is one of the huge differences between an ordinary conditioned soul and Krishna. Just like in the previous verse, it said, you know, he knows everybody, you know, he knows the pleasures and pains of every single living entity, but we only know that which is in our individual body, you know. But at the same time, we can know that Krishna, since we're Krishna conscious, we can perceive that Krishna is in the heart of all living entities. Just like it says in 434, it says, this One should try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. And what is the truth? The next verse goes, when one has thus learned the truth, he'll know that all living entities are but part of me, they're in me, and they're mine. So everybody is within Krishna, and they're all just separated parts and parcels of his, form. They're inconceivably and simultaneously one and different from him. So that's just an awesome realization. Just that one realization that Krishna's in everyone's heart. He knows what everything is about. Everything is omniscient. That is an amazing opulence of Krishna that would blow anybody's mind if they realize it.
Would that apply also in the spiritual kingdom as well? Or,
of course,
just
they're never separated from Krishna. And Krishna gives himself to his dearest devotees. They're the Nitya Siddha. There's two types of devotees. There's Nitya Siddha devotee. Those are eternally liberated. They all live in the spiritual world, which is actually 3/4 of the entire creation. The 1/4 of the creation is the material world. That's the dark part of the universe with the billions of trillions of universes. But they are eternally conditioned. But the eternally liberated souls they don't have any envy. They don't have any separate mentality. They don't have any material desires. They're all completely in harmony with Krishna, and they serve him with love and devotion in the spiritual world. And if anybody has that mentality, Krishna is like, there's no way that Krishna can even repay those types of devotees, those eternally liberated souls. He's in everyone's heart, but he pays special attention to his devotees that serve him, so they're even more connected, to him than we are. Because, we want to be separated from Krishna. That's why we're here. That's what Devamarita Swami said. I think I told this before. He said one of his famous sayings was like, if you look in the mirror in the morning, you see a material body, you made a mistake. So, it's like we have these material bodies. We must have done something wrong and had a separate desire to enjoy differently from Krishna. Instead of serving him, we decided to serve ourselves and our own senses and our own sense gratification. And it's still hard to, because we're so conditioned to actually remember that all the time. I used to do the pick. The pick was like collecting money for New Vrindavan, and I said, they used to have a saying, Shik went out in the pick, and he went back to Godhead real quick, And I said, well, I wish I could go back to Godhead and pick mangoes in the spiritual world. But my friend told me, yeah, but you have to pick mangoes for Krishna, not for yourself. And I said, oh my God, I'll never go back to God. Because if you had that selfish mentality, you'll never realize. If you even have like a desire for a sweet ball, if you're on your way back to the spiritual world, going past all these heavenly planets, you desire the slightest thing, you're not going to get there. It's very strict. So we're in the process of purifying ourselves and getting rid of all our mental distractions and desires and all these things. All we have to do is keep on reading and keep on chanting for a long time, and maybe we'll finish up in this lifetime. But if not, it'll start off where we left off. You want to read the next one?
Sure. Text 32. Atma pamyena sarvatra samam pasyati yo arjuna sukham va yari va dukham sayogi paramo mata. Synonyms. Atma, with his self. Opamyena, by comparison. Sarvatra, everywhere. Samam, equally. Pasyati, sees. Ya, he who. Arjuna, O Arjuna. Sukham, happiness. Va, or. Yari, if. Va, or. Dukham, distress. Sa, such. Yogi, a transcendentalist. Parama, perfect. Mata, is considered. Translation. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna. Purport. One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience.
The cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all the activities of the human being, the proprietor of all lands and planets, and the sincerest friend of all living entities. The perfect yogi knows that the living being who is conditioned by the modes of material nature is subjected to the threefold material miseries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. And because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world, and he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Nacha tasman manushyesu kaschin ma priya kritama. 1869. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities, and in this way he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. Here's a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi who is withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who is trying his best to turn every man toward Krishna consciousness.
That verse 1869, Chitasmin Manasya Kachin Me Priyakritama means, one who explains this to my devotee, no one is more dear to me than he, nor will there be anyone more dear. In other words, Krishna really appreciates when you try to repeat this knowledge to others, because I just read something in in the Chaitanya Śikṣāṣtaka by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he was saying that Krishna, Lord Chaitanya's whole deal is just two concepts: the taste of the holy name and mercy to the living entities. That's it. That is totally what Lord Chaitanya's philosophy is made of. So when you actually are on that path of understanding Lord Chaitanya's mercy to the living entities and getting a taste for Krishna consciousness, when you're doing that, you're automatically preaching to whomever you meet. And when you act on that basis, whoever you meet, instruct them in the Bhagavad-gītā and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, try to deliver everyone in the land. It's a person-to-person thing, because there's no magic bullet. But the devotees of Krishna are always trying to figure out ways to please Krishna, and when you try to please him according to his instructions, that especially when you try to preach Krishna consciousness, because that's what the mission of Lord Chaitanya is about, and what Srila Prabhupada did all over the world. When you try to carry that on, then Krishna is very pleased. So the whole goal of life is to please Krishna. There's nothing more to do than that. So when you try to fulfill the Lord Chaitanya's desire that my name will be heard in every town and village in the world, then that is very pleasing to Krishna, and it shows a selfless mentality, just like the gopis. The gopis were never interested in their own self-satisfaction. They were only interested in Krishna's satisfaction. In fact, Radharani, she would push other devotees to Krishna, to the extent that if some gopi wanted to be with Krishna, and she would try to push that gopi to Krishna, even at her own happiness's expense. She was so surrendered. That was it's a very high level of self-surrender and selflessness, and nobody exhibits that more than the gopis, and especially Radharani. Complete selflessness, and that is a symptom of a purified soul. And these women, they didn't perform any austerities. They didn't read the Vedas. We're reading the Vedas. We're trying to learn step by step. We're in the practice of Vaidhi Bhakti, and we're just becoming purified. But they didn't even have to do that. They just were naturally attracted to Krishna, and by that, natural attraction, they became pure devotees, more so than any other living entity. So whatever way you can get it, it's available, but it requires intense desire, and you have to know the goal. The goal is not just to learn things, but it's also to actually develop an emotional attachment to Krishna, and then ultimately love of God. That's the goal. And if you're proceeding straight on that goal and doing everything you can to reach that goal, it's actually pure devotion, because that is actually who we are. So you can't when you try to endeavor for something that's very hard outside of yourself, then that's not pure devotion. But if you're actually endeavoring for your own self-realization and for Krishna's pleasure, then that's actually not doing anything at all. That's actually you're desireless, because you're actually coming into your constitutional position as a living entity who is the eternal servant of Krishna. So that's the key to not endeavoring too hard for the external things. It's something that's in our hearts anyway. It just has to be awakened. It's not something that's derived from an external place. I guess I'll read this one. Text 33, Arjuna Vacha. Yoyam yogas tvaya prokta samyena madhusudana etasayam napasyami chanchaladvat stitim stiram. Synonyms. Arjuna Vacha, Arjuna said, Yamayam, this system, yoga, mysticism, tvaya, by you, prokta, described, samyena, generally, madhusudana, O killer of the Madhu demon, etasya, of this, aham, I, na, do not, pasyami, see, chanchalatvat, due to being restless, stitim, situation, stiram, stable. Translation, Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga you've summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. You can read the purport.
The system of mysticism described by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, beginning with the words Suchal Desha and ending with Yogi Parama, is here being rejected by Arjuna out of a feeling of inability. It is not possible for an ordinary man to leave home and go to a secluded place in the mountains or jungles to practice yoga in this age of Kali. The present age is characterized by a bitter struggle for life of short duration. People are not serious about self-realization even by simple practical means, and what to speak of this difficult yoga system, which regulates the mode of living, the manner of sitting, selection of place, and detachment of the mind from material engagements. As a practical man, Arjuna thought it was impossible to follow this system of yoga, even though he was favorably endowed in many ways. He belonged to the royal family and was highly elevated in terms of numerous qualities. He was a great warrior. He had great longevity, and above all, he was the most intimate friend of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 5,000 years ago, Arjuna had much better facilities than we do now, yet he refused to accept this system of yoga. In fact, we do not find any record in history of his practicing it at any time. Therefore, this system must be considered generally impossible in this age of Kali. Of course, it may be possible for some very few rare men, but for the people in general, it is an impossible proposal. If this were 5,000 years ago, then what of the present day? Those who are imitating this yoga system in different so-called schools and societies, although complacent, are certainly wasting their time. They are completely in ignorance of the desired goal.
I mean, that's pretty unequivocal. Like there's so many yoga is still very popular. It started on the rise in the West, in the 70s and 60s and 70s, became extremely popular, and it still is. But they don't know that they're completely wasting their time. Bhakti yoga is the only real process for actually uncovering who we really are. I mean, yoga is meant to uncover the soul, the super soul in the heart, but it's very popular. But that's not the processes of religion is not based on popularity. Fortunately, it's based on what is set down by Krishna and the disciplic succession, and has been practiced since time immemorial. And even Arjuna couldn't practically do this system, just like you said, you can't, you can't even by simple practical means, they can't even, do self-realization. What to speak of a difficult extremely, the controlling your breathing exercises, putting your inward breath into your outer breath until you actually stop breathing. How can anybody do that? So, why waste your time? And also yoga and karma yoga and jnana yoga, those two things, they're only dependent on bhakti yoga. Unless you have bhakti yoga mixed in, they're a complete waste of time, because they won't, even though the karma yogi, he may get a desired result, and they're all self-centered, they have some selfish motive in either of those two, but bhakti yoga is pure. So unless it's somewhat mixed with the pure bhakti yoga, neither of those two processes will help with the ultimate goal. It has to be mixed. Text 34. Chanchalam hi mana krishnas balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayar eva suduskritam karam. Synonyms. Chanchalam, flickering. He, certainly. Mana, mind. E Krishna, O Krishna. Pratam, pramati, agitating. Balavat, strong. Dridam, obstinate. I'm getting over a cold. That's why I'm kind of like coughing. Tasya, it's aham, I, nigraham, subduing. Manye, think. Vayu, of the wind. Eva, like. Duskaram, difficult. Translation. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. Let me see here. How long is this? Why don't you read the whole paragraph here, or the whole purport?
Okay. Purport. The mind is so strong and obstinate that it sometimes overcomes the intelligence, although the mind is supposed to be subservient to the intelligence. For a man in the practical world who has to fight so many opposing elements, it is certainly very difficult to control the mind. Artificially, one may establish a mental equilibrium toward both friend and enemy, but ultimately no worldly man can do so, for this is more difficult than controlling the raging wind. In the Vedic literature, Katha Upanishad 1:3-4, it says, Atmanam Ratinam Vidhi Shariram Ratham Evacha Udhim tu Saratim Vidhi Mana Pragram Evacha Indriyani Hayan Ahor Vishayams Teshu Gocharan Admendriya Mano Yuktam Okteti Ahor Manishina. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and the intelligence is the driver. Mind is the driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So it is understood by great thinkers. Intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence, as an acute infection may surpass the efficacy of medicine. Such a strong mind is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga, but such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. And what can we say of modern man? The simile used here is appropriate. One cannot capture the blowing wind, and it is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. The easiest way to control the mind, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, is chanting Hare Krishna, the great mantra for deliverance in all humility. The method prescribed is Saiva Mana Krishna Adar Vinideo. One must engage one's mind fully in Krishna. Only then will there remain no other engagements to agitate the mind.
Yeah, the mind. Yeah, maybe you've seen this picture. There's also many dioramas of the chariot and the horses, the senses of the horses, the 5 horses, and the driver is in the intelligence, but the soul is sitting in the back of the chariot, just being thrown all over the place, being directed by the mind and the senses and the intelligence. And sometimes the senses are so strong they can't even control the intelligence can't control the senses. So therefore, we need to focus on Krishna, because Krishna is Rishikesh, the original source of all the senses, the controller of the senses. So if we engage in Krishna's service, Krishna will automatically control the mind. I know, and through my 7 or 8 years of reading these books, this is the easiest way for me to control my mind. But even in the beginning, when I was reading, my mind was going all over the place while I was reading. But now I think I've beaten my mind down enough so that it is like a little subdued. I don't want to deviate an inch from what Prabhupada is saying in these purports or what Krishna is saying, because Krishna knows better that my feeble mind is going this way and that, directed by my past conditioning, directed by my material desires, directed by my thoughts and dreams, and even my plans to serve Krishna. You know, this devotee was speaking in the Bhakti Center the other day, and he was saying, even a devotee, he said, I want to serve Krishna this way, I want to serve Krishna that way. You serve Krishna the way Krishna wants to be served. And that's it. You know, you don't have to worry about any other path. So it's a complete release from all kinds of anxiety when you know you're no longer responsible to come up with a plan. You just engage in Krishna's service under his direction, and then whatever you're realizing from that source is confirmed on the inside by the super soul and confirmed on the outside by the Shastra and Guru. So then you're free to act. And you can come up with so many ideas that are favorable for that path. But that is the easiest way to get rid of all anxieties and fear and you know, stop being a control freak, you know, in your own mind. You know, Bhaktisiddhanta used to say, you beat your mind in the morning with a broom, and then in the evening again with a shoe, or vice versa. I can't remember what it is, but the mind is the best of friends, but it can be your greatest enemy as well, because, you know, especially if it's connected to the senses and you're following it, letting the senses drag you around from this to that, you'll never understand Krishna consciousness, because it says in the Gita here that those who are too attached to sense objects are bewildered by these things. The resolute determination to devotional service to the Lord does not take place. So it's very, very important to control the mind. And that is only done by one pointed determination to the goal, which is surrender to Krishna and develop love for him. Anyway, I got to stop here. It's 6:40.
Okay.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
participating again. And is your family okay now, or?
Oh yeah, everything was, yeah, there were, I mean, it wasn't an emergency. There we were just doing some family stuff together. So
Yeah, family stuff, you know. I know about family stuff. Next Monday is my wife's anniversary, so I had to, you know, I almost forgot. I was in Aldi and she told me, you got to get some flowers because it's Valentine's Day. And, you know, I would be really bad if I forgot something, because I would forget the Valentine's Day and our anniversary at the same time. So I'd be definitely sleeping on the porch. So,
oh, happy anniversary.
yeah, thanks. But,
so
you know, and that'll be, you know, a year from now, that'll be 20 years. And that's pretty good for an old guy like me. But
so do you want to just meet Wednesday then?
What's that?
Do you want to just meet on Wednesday then?
No, Monday's fine. Oh, wait. I don't know.
You said your anniversary is Monday.
I don't even know what we're going to do. Maybe we'll go out. I don't know. Actually, probably it's better just to yeah, the 14th is Monday, huh?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we'll probably just play it on the safe side. I don't know. You know, I do whatever I want to do, but I have to ask my wife what it is that I want to do.
There you go.
You know how that works. But you know, so I think she said something about going out, so maybe we better just meet on Wednesday.
Okay.
So thank you very much. So,
Yep. Good.
Hare Krishna.